For those of you just joining, sorry I was a little late there. Gonna pop up the chat here in just a second. We'll get started here momentarily, let people load in. Also, because I've had mic issues before, can you guys hear me? Just want to make sure. You know, all that craziness. Thank you, Jim. I think I just X'd out. Yikes. Okay, phew. All right, guys, we're gonna let a few more people load in. I just got a couple messages on my phone. People interested in what's going on here, the upcoming 15th event, 16th. So give it about another 2 minutes or so, we'll get started. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. Sorry, I was a minute or two late there getting this set up. But again, thanks for those of you that are joining. Again, for anyone new, I'm just going to go over the cold front that's moving in for the weekend, talking about the February 15th, 16th possible storm that we have moving into the Mid-Atlantic Ohio Valley area. So again, if you're new, thank you for joining. So it's been a very interesting week of model runs for this event. I know I've been talking about this for almost a week now in terms of it showing up on like a 10-day, 12 days out actually on the Euro. And the thing I want to start off with is that this storm that is popping up, the energy is still there. The track of the low pressure has been all over the map. From as far north I saw is like pretty much Missouri, northern Missouri, all the way down into probably, I've seen it dip down to the Gulf in one run with the Canadians. So this low pressure that's coming from the west headed towards the east, it's been all over the map when it comes to where it has it tracking across the country. So, you know, it's it's going to be difficult to track this. I'm going to give you guys a very honest and clear heads up on this. Much like the last system, there could be temperature issues, but I am going to talk a little bit about why I believe that the models still aren't handling the cold temperatures and that how stubborn Arctic air can be for the East Coast. So as you probably noticed, it's getting a little colder at night. Little by little, we're dipping further into the 20s. Some places have already hit the teens. And I'll bring up this slide here real quick and just to show you. So this is the thermal profiles for the mid-Atlantic and what it will look like roughly Sunday night going into Monday. As you can see, the surface temperatures, they're going to be insanely cold, right? So for people that are further up north, you think, a bunch of wimps down south. Now, I don't care where you are, -10, -12, 13, 14, that's cold no matter where you go. So maybe if you're from Siberia, you can look at this and think it's t-shirt weather, but this is definitely going to be a powerful Arctic high that makes its way down. It will set into the area starting tomorrow. You'll probably start noticing it sometime in the mid-afternoon. It's been windy lately, so that's part of that system, that high that's moving in. And the reason this is significant is currently on the models, what it's showing, and I can bring this up here while I'm talking about this, this is the GFS that ran late last night, right? So as you can see here, it wants to show snow for us. And this was the run last night. Interestingly enough, the same run that happened earlier this afternoon, excuse me, look at that. Now it's showing rain for the air, excuse me. And Orchard Bluebird just asked if those temps were actuals. Yes, those are actuals surface temperatures. So again, wind chills could reach -20 overnight, -22. So again, we're looking at it here, and you can see that the rain line has moved its way west out towards West Virginia. And that's significant because, again, the GFS is backing off the cold idea, and the Euro is kind of doing the same thing, which I'll show you. And I think that's a little confusing for everyone that tracks weather. Every meteorologist that I've spoken to and at least heard out about the system is there's some serious issues as far as the expectation of how that cold air will move out that quickly. Like, no one can understand why the models are doing this. And it's been this way now for a few days. That's been trending a little bit colder each run, but then all of a sudden there was this flip-flop today. And I'll show you that as well. So to kind of get into that flip-flop, let me bring up this. This is a snow map for the GFS yesterday. And I don't think, excuse me, I don't think this could be any more pronounced cutoff. It's like someone took a sword and just gashed the Northeast with snow. And this tells me a lot about the system, and I'll get into that into a second, why it's showing this gradient and why it's such a steep cutoff. So you can see here in areas, there's 11 inches, there's 8, there's 10. Some areas in here, according to this scale, could reach in upwards of, I'm guessing, in the 20s. So, again, kind of a widespread event all the way from North Carolina all the way up into Northeast to Maine. I don't think this is a correct solution, but we'll get to that in a little bit about that cutoff too. Because, how in the world can you get 8 inches here and then practically a dusting right next to it? That's pretty rare to have something that tight of a cutoff. So next thing I'll get into here is the GFS that ran GFS that ran last night as well. And again, it shows you that steep cutoff, right? 10 inches to 4, 11 to 3. I mean, that's a really tight band. Now, we'll tell you there are many storms that we have where you see this favorability towards the west for snow totals because of elevation, right? But this pronounced, it's pretty rare, right? And then the next thing I want to get into here, I will go into this in a minute, excuse me, is the euro. Now, I'm going to tell you guys right now, the euro is a very different solution than the GFS when it comes to where the snow wants to go. This that I'm going to show you right now was the euro that ran today at 1 p.m. And as you can see, it shifted its totals west. It went right over the central to western West Virginia, right up into the Ohio Valley. Looks like Columbus, Ohio gets dumped on, as well as northwest Pennsylvania and on into Buffalo and areas north. So when I see this, there's a lot of things going on here with these models, and to have a shift this dramatic between one run to another is pretty insane. I don't have a Euro map to show you of what it showed yesterday, but I can tell you that this band that you see right here was right over Northern Virginia into DC, and this was all the way over here, and Ohio is getting a dusting. So again, we're running into this situation where the models are having a very hard time figuring out if this is going to interact with the coast or if this is going to become an inland storm that goes up like an Appalachian runner, as they're called, where they dump the snow across the mountains and head their way to the northeast into the central part of Ohio. Believe it or not, this is a very rare track for a storm to run. Its solution, in my opinion, the operational right now for the Euro still has not bullseyed where this snow will go. And again, like we talked about with the blizzard, which again, to re-emphasize, this will not be anywhere near the blizzard in terms of impact. It will be much less. Nonetheless, you could see a foot somewhere to 10 inches wherever this may lay. But again, we're not sure where that is yet. But I do know that the Euro has made a dramatic shift in one day. And that says everything to me when it comes to the validity of this run. There are many times when a run is, an operational is done running, and you look at it and you say, God, this doesn't even make sense. I don't understand what just happened. Now, there are cases when that happens that it sees something that maybe you're not considering. So I am very interested to see what the Euro says tonight. But my hunch is it's going to come a little bit back east, much like the Euro did for the blizzard when it was so far south. And, I questioned it, how it's handling the low. Once again, I'm questioning how it's handling the low. And it, too, came back north pretty significantly, about 100 miles. This is like a 200-mile shift that went west. So we'll see if that's the same situation. And I brought up this as well to kind of show you a different map, same run that we were just looking at. And this is why I don't believe this for a second. Look at this right here, okay? See this cutoff? There's no way that's going to happen. I mean, that tells me that there is some sort of a signal error going on with this run that ran this afternoon. Because this gradient can't exist. It's not handling the precipitation correctly. Now, with that being said, if you look at this, you're going to think, well, we're not even going to get anything. Like, it looks like everything just goes, west of us. And, well, That's kind of a strange run. Like, why would the Euro suddenly do that? But there is going to be precipitation. And apologize for not having this up ahead of time, but I will bring this up. So what I'm going to show you is the European when it comes to precipitation, right? The amount of moisture that we're going to get for this event. And it runs kind of fast, so bear with me as I pause in and out. But I want you to get a good look at this. So if I start here, this is showing Friday, tomorrow, Saturday, into Sunday, Valentine's Day. Monday, here comes the precipitation, right over here from western Tennessee, make its way across. Tuesday, now what's interesting is the Euro did slow down the precipitation some, so this is early Tuesday. Wednesday, look what the majority of the moisture that's converted into snow is. And then look into Wednesday. Now, that's a lot of moisture. If you look here, we can kind of zoom in a little bit. Excuse my... and you can see we've got areas that are in white there, and that's nearly 2 inches of precipitation. We've got areas in, excuse me, in Loudoun County West and some parts east that are 1 to 1.5 inches of precip. So if that's all frozen, it's well over a foot of snow. Now, temperatures, like we were talking about before, the temperatures don't appear to be cooperating with the models. They seem to think, and I'll go back a couple frames so you can understand this, they seem to think at this point, you see this purple line. That purple line is the freezing line, right? The rain-snow line, as you might hear it sometimes. What the Euro believes, and the GFS to a degree right now, is that as soon as this front makes its way in, it's going to raise that freezing, that rain-snow line, as the front makes its way in, and completely go from temperatures that what I showed you Sunday night into Monday into Tuesday, overnight are in the negative teens, to 45, some areas 50 degrees by the time this storm makes its way through. Now, for that to happen, this low pressure center would absolutely have to decimate the high pressure center. And I'm going to bring up the GFS to show you what I mean by that. So here we are in the GFS. Let me go back a few frames. Nope, it started from the beginning. Okay, it's making its way right now through Saturday into Sunday. And I want you to pay attention to this guy right here. Right, that's your high pressure center. I'm going to zoom in. Sorry about that. Hard to see. But watch that high pressure center as it tracks across Virginia. And it settles itself right over here. Okay, what the Euro is saying is when this storm rolls in, that it's going to quite literally knock the hell out of that high pressure center way out over the ocean, somewhere out over the Atlantic. And what I'm telling you, what I believe, is that it is underestimating the strength of that high. It's not a very strong high pressure center. So let me get that across right away. It's not like the one we had with Snowzilla that helped block the moisture and keep it in and keep those bands, deformation bands, coming in. It is, however, strong enough where it could keep in cold air for quite some time, quite a bit longer than the Euro is depicting and that the GFS is depicting. And I think right now it's a battle with the models of trying to figure out, hey, how cold is it going to be, not only at the surface but at that mid layer where the precipitation starts to fall. And I think as we get closer to the event, we're going to start seeing it trend colder. So that's one piece that has to happen for there to be snow. The other piece is the track, which I'm going to get into here in a second as well. But before we wrap that up, and leading on to the track discussion that I was just saying, there is a clipper. I don't know if any of you saw my post after I made a main post last night. There is a clipper, which is this guy right here, this low pressure center. And it's going to make its way down across the Midwest. And it's not very strong, but what that does is it acts as a vehicle for cold air. Now, the stronger that this cutter is, that comes in over Monday, possibly Sunday, I'm thinking probably late Sunday into Monday, but the stronger that this thing becomes, and it's gotten stronger 2 runs in a row, it acts as its own cold air maker, right? So it opens up a pathway for that cold, frigid Arctic air that we're going to be feeling down over the area that will help keep the temperatures lower than what the models are saying. So that is one key thing to look at. Now, why is that so significant? Well, with the blizzard that we had, there was also a cutter that came through, and it delivered some cold air and some snow. If you guys remember that Wednesday, that like surprise half-inch of snow that just absolutely mangled traffic in DC. I think people were calling it Commutegeddon Part 2. Like, people were on the road for like hours on end. That was a cutter that came through that helped bring in that colder air that helped set up the blizzard. So every single inch of precipitation that fell was snow and not a mix. So this is kind of the same idea with this system. Now, last thing I'll get into before I open up for questions, I will say that the track is anyone's guess right now. I'm going to be honest with you. Is this going to be a coastal storm? My opinion right now, probably not, based on what I'm looking at with the models. Both the GFS and the Euro are saying this is going to be more of an inland storm. With that being said, do I think that it's going to move its way up the Ohio Valley like we looked at here with the European, and it's going to be this area that gets the bullseye? This is a less likely of a scenario than it is here, simply because of the way that the jet stream pushes systems, for one. And two, this is just not a common event whatsoever for Ohio or for western Pennsylvania. They rely more on lake effect snow than anything. They rarely, if ever, get coastals that have gone from being a coastal to being an inland storm. They mostly get their snow from lake effect, and anyone from up there will tell you that. So my opinion right now is this is still a wait and see situation. It is starting to trend faster with the GFS and slower with the Euro. So there's a lot of inconsistencies with the model, and you can see it right here with this data. I mean, what is that, right? That's just not handling this run whatsoever. I tend to notice that the midnight runs of the Euro, the 1 a.m. runs of the Euro tend to be more accurate anyway. So I lean on those more than anything. Don't know why that's the case, but it's something that I lean on more than the 1 p.m. runs. So last thing I'll get into is this guy, and this is a tiny image. But guys, this is our surface temperatures, like actual ground temperatures that are estimated for when the snowfall or precipitation would begin. And this is key to me because the Euro spit this out yesterday. Okay, and I haven't seen the new readings yet because the para-Euro breakdown isn't out yet. It doesn't come out till probably about 9-ish, 10. But how can the surface be this cold and it just be rain, right? It has to be some kind of frozen precipitation. So you can see there's a lot of discrepancy. There's no real rhyme or reason to what the models are saying right now. Both the GFS, and the Euro are in that same undecided camp. So it's going to be a wild ride. Going to be pretty sleepless for me because I'll be looking at a lot of models late in the night and early in the morning. But I'll continue to monitor it. Again, this is one of my hobbies, so it's my own fault. But anyway, that being said, one last thing I want to show you that is interesting from the Euro. If this thing ends up being a rainer, right, and it's just rain, which I don't see, but again, if it is that is the case, we're talking about some serious winds that are coming across the region. 50, 60 mile an hour winds in some places. So it could be a rough rainstorm if it's not snow. So I will continue to look at this, guys. It is a very fluid situation. There is no consensus amongst models. I do think once that cutter moves through, that will give us a better idea as to what we should be expecting for precipitation. So I'm going to continue to monitor this guy. And if for any reason that thing gets stronger, that will trend towards a snowier, colder solution for reasons already stated. If that becomes weaker and it's not quite as a significant cutter that brings in that cold air, then I could possibly see a scenario where we have a sudden warm-up. But remember, above all tonight, if you haven't taken anything else away, remember above all, cold air is extremely stubborn and very hard to move out. And you'll see any meteorologist that you ever talk to, any amateur like myself that you talk to, cold air is the hardest thing to get removed from an area, especially when it's a partial polar vortex displacement into the East Coast, which we'll be getting. Again, thanks, guys. And I'll open up for the Q&A, open up Facebook here, and let me know if you got any questions. And Joseph Connie, I don't think defensive formations have anything to do with weather. Thank you. Thank you. All right, your question. So the one thing that I think a lot of people aren't considering when it comes to that is the jet stream, or rather the southeastern prevailing winds that are making their way across from the Gulf up into eastern United States. There's a definitive track that's been laid already in the, it's a very layman's term way of putting, but a track that's allowing these low pressure centers to cut up versus coming any further down into the southeast. It is an interesting phenomena, but at the same time, it's not uncommon for this for an El Nino winter. So for an El Nino winter, you guys really have to get a true blast of cold air to really draw on anything of significance with the low pressure center to do damage frozen precip wise. But that being said, it's not impossible. And you guys almost got that displacement of cold air that we've been talking about, that, down with you guys, it's actually tracked a little further north, being that epicenter of cold air. So, Cassie, no, I will not be staying up for the 1 a.m. run to post. I might look at it, glance at it, wake up with my alarm, but I won't be posting. I'll be waiting till the next day to look at the breakdown of the data. But I might do that if it comes down to it getting closer to the storm, like Sunday to Monday. Aaron, I've heard a lot of talk from outlets regarding significant ice storm with the system. Thoughts? No, so that is definitely something that I have been considering. I don't want to bring up the word ice unless I'm certain, because ice is nasty. Ice causes many issues across electrical grids and dangerous driving conditions, and I hate ice. So I'm thinking that is a possibility with this, but I really feel strongly about the idea that we would see more of a chance for snow than we would ice, and I would put rain as a second option over ice as well. And that's not because of preference, that's just based on what I'm looking at. So don't pay too much mind yet to outlets talking about ice. I think a couple models suggested it. Overall, not that prevalent. Oh. I don't see any questions on Facebook. Oh, we're not even logged in. Here we go. Okay. All right, guys. Well, does anybody have any other questions at all? I know there was a lot of info to take in. Kind of some bullet points to give people some time to think up a question if they have one or not. The Euro and the GFS have tracked a little west of our area. The Euro went off the rocker and went way west. They're saying warmer temperatures than usual when the precipitation moves in, that we would suddenly get about a 30 to 40 degree warm up in some areas. Models are also downplaying the amount of cold air we're going to be getting. Again, that's something to consider. And the cutter that we talked about is a big proponent to this. If that cutter grows in intensity in any respect, the more intense it is, the more cold air it's going to embed into the area. And I really think that covers it all. But just as a reminder, people, if you have, anyone, if you've got, your cabinets open, make sure you run some warm water, let it trickle overnight. I would even start it tonight, because there might be a chance we get down to the mid-teens tonight in some areas. This is serious cold, right? This is like northern Canada, central northern Canada cold that we're not used to. So do your best to bundle up, keep your house nice and toasty, and keep those the cabinets open overnight with any of your, keep your plumbing nice and warm. In Art, I don't believe this will track any further southward. In looking at it, it's really attracted to central U.S., and then possibly that it dives down over North Carolina off the coast to become a coastal. But at this point, I'm like leaning 60 inland, 40 coastal. And for anybody living north of the Mid-Atlantic, I do want to bring this up real quick. It's going to be a pretty significant storm if it decides it's going to rain down here. So if any of you guys have anyone that that lives in Pennsylvania, they'll be used to it. But anyone anybody in that area, they could get a pretty good thump of snow. So if anyone's planning on being up there around President's Day trying to come home. Keep that in mind. I really think that's it. I don't have any other questions, I believe. You're welcome, Joan. No problem. Keep visiting. And one thing too before I cut off here, I just want to say thank you to those of you that have tuned in. It's made it a lot more enjoyable to be able to share some of this stuff and do it live. I know it's difficult to do over a single post. I try my best, but I do enjoy doing this, and let's hope that we can keep it going, right? Let's chase some events down. Again, thank you guys very much. If you have any questions after this, post them on Facebook. You can send me a direct message if you're embarrassed to put it on a regular post, or have a very specific question you don't want people to know what you're asking. That's fine. You can do that too. I have many people that reach out to me on a daily basis. Thank you guys very much. Have a good night, and you will be hearing from Zcast again here soon. Thank you.